I never really thought this day would come. Well, I guess it hasn't come yet, but the day will come very soon. And I honestly believed that I wouldn't see this day, or it would have been a lot longer. The time has come where tablets are now starting to receive the same specifications that phones are being launched with. Leaks came out with the new Samsung Galaxy S9, Tab S9, S9 Plus, and Tab S9 Ultra. Now, it's going to come basically spec'd out. If you expect top-of-the-line specs with your flagship devices, Samsung had no excuse to not put flagship specs in their tablets. They're really expensive. They're basically the same price as the S23 Ultra. I mean, look, you can get a base S8, the current model, for what, like $400, something like that, $500. But their Ultra line, just like their Samsung Galaxy S23, S23 Plus, and S23 Ultra, they're doing the same thing with their Tab S series tablets. You're going to get a base storage, 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. You're going to get 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, and then you'll get a whopping 16 gigabytes of RAM with 512 gigabytes of storage. That is awesome. That is music to my ears. No more days of these rinky-dink tablets having these rinky-dink specs. I never understood it. It used to bug the hell out of me. The very first tablet that they put close to flagship specs was my Samsung Galaxy Tab S7 Plus. So it was like the last year's gens. It had 8 gigs of RAM and 128 gigs of storage. So that's like the base, the very bare minimum I will use. 8 gigs of RAM, 128 gigs of storage. The storage goes quick, the RAM goes quick when you're using the tablet, but you're using it, I was using it with Samsung DEX. I was basically using it as a Chromebook and or a laptop, because the Chrome browser in the Galaxy tablets actually come with the browser, with the desktop mode or a desktop Chrome browser. So it's basically like using a laptop. Now, they also have, if you're not aware, Samsung has the RAM Plus, where it'll take virtual memory, add it to RAM. So if you have the, let's use my phone for example. I have 12 gigs of RAM on my S23 Ultra. They give you and 512 gigs of storage. They give you an option to add another 8 gigs of RAM on top of that. So they take 8 gigs of RAM. Now, this just became available and or just became a thing in the last year or two, because the UFS storage, the actual how fast your memory can read and write and operate, just in the last year or two got so good to where now it's not as good as your stock RAM is, but it's close. I have 20 gigs of RAM total with real RAM, virtual RAM on my S23 Ultra. If you get one of the new Tab S9s and you get the 12 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage, I think that should be fine. Now, they'll give you an option to add another 8 gigs of RAM, so you'll have 20 gigs of RAM, 256 gigs of storage. That's good for DEX. I would not even run DEX if it had less than 12 gigs of storage. RAM, because my Tab S7 Plus, which had 8 gigs of RAM and then I put another 8 in virtual, so it had 16 gigs. It wouldn't lag, but I can definitely tell that DEX works. Now that tablet is a year and a half old. It was probably designed a year before that, so it's what, 2.5 years old, basically. So, long story short, I would get the Plus model. The base model should be fine, but trust me, you're going to want the Plus. Now, it's going to have UFS 4.0 storage, which is awesome. And the Ultra is going to be huge. So the regular tablets, like, I apologize, I read most of the specs, but I just hit record. The base model, I think, is going to be 9.7. The Plus S9 Plus, Tab S9 Plus is going to be, I think, like 11.2 inches. And then the Ultra is going to be spec'd out. Now that's going to be the like $1,500 one. That one's like, I believe, around 14 inches screen size. So it's pretty darn big. It's basically a full, like a laptop, a 2-in-1. But you're going to have the top of the line processor. You're going to have the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 in there. I think 8 Gen 2 Plus, I believe. So it's going to be spec'd out. It's going to have the 4K display. All of them are AMOLED. Should be phenomenal. DEX mode should be awesome on there. I'm just so happy we got to the point, because you remember those, Android needs a tablet to compete with iPad, because iPad dominates that sector, that tablet sector. Dominates. I mean, there's a lot of people that would still rather get, if they just want a cheap tablet, they'd rather just get a, you know, older iPad instead of getting a newer Samsung tablet. Lenovo's coming out with some okay stuff, and I know there's some Chinese companies coming out with some okay stuff, but okay performing. But if you want top of the line, if you want to compete with the big boys, Samsung is throwing everything that got into this tablet. It should be a awesome competition between the new iPad and the new Samsung Tab S9 Ultra. I can't wait for this thing to come out. So that was just a little news that just leaked right now. I'll put the story in the description, and I will probably hit y'all with another story tomorrow. Google's coming out with a tablet. I may do some research on that. In fact, I think my wife mentioned she wants to get that, so definitely review it. But I'm gonna go through some leaks and see if I can find anything on any new information on the new Google tablet. It's gonna be like the Pixel tablet. You know, Google got out of the tablet game a few years ago because, quite honestly, they sucked. But this year, with how well they're designing and constructing the Pixel 7 Pros and the upcoming 8s, if they take the same, you know, oomph that they have with these Pixels and put it into a Pixel tablet, it's going to be awesome. Not as good as the Samsung, because Samsung has DEX. That's the game changer. Samsung DEX. Not even iPad has that. Changes the whole game. It is literally a desktop and or laptop, but it's basically desktop geared operating system on a tablet. It's phenomenal. Go check out some of our older videos of our DEX with the S23 Ultra. It's freaking awesome. I mean, I don't know how people don't talk about that more. I think a lot of people just don't use it, right? But it's there, and you need to use it if you have a Samsung device. So I'm gonna get some details on this new Pixel tablet and probably do another video, and we'll see what else is in the news. But until next time, I'll see y'all.